I was a stage manager right out of college. I was making $3.24 an hour. I didn't really know what. I didn't cry. Something magic could happen. And that's how I feel about Horizon. It's a movie I made for myself.
Kevin Costner's name is synonymous with iconic American films that have touched millions. Yet beneath the shining success lies a story marked by profound loss and quiet suffering. How does a man who built empires of story and song face the crumbling of his own world? From childhood heartbreak to public divorces and the death of close friends, Costner's journey reveals that even the strongest heroes carry wounds unknown to the crowd. This is a tale not just of fame, but of endurance, the kind that breaks hearts, yet refuses to break the spirit.
I grew up in the church, and so hopefully whether you're whether you're a believer or whether you're a cynic.
Roots beneath the silence. Kevin Costner's story begins far from the silver screens and red carpets, in the modest surroundings of Linwood, California. Born the youngest son of William "Bill" Costner, a ditch digger turned power line technician, and Sharon Ray, a social worker weighed down by others' pains, Kevin's early life was shaped by hard work and quiet sacrifice. Their home was small, their dreams humble, but nestled beneath it all was a consistent, unspoken love that tried to shield them from life's uncertainty. Yet, even in this steady environment, tragedy had already cast its long shadow. 2 years before Kevin's birth, the family had lost a child. His older brother, Mark Douglas Costner, lived only a single day, a private grief that no words could soothe. That tragic loss quietly reshaped the family dynamic, making love fierce and protective. But tinged with a lingering sorrow, Bill became stricter, determined to protect his remaining sons from a world full of unpredictable losses, while Sharon folded her exhaustion and heartache into quiet gestures and moments of stillness. It was a childhood underpinned by an invisible ache. Kevin learned early to observe the weight of grief borne silently by his parents. He would sometimes catch his mother lost in thought, staring at empty corners, embodying a love that mourned what had been lost, but had never been spoken aloud. His father, strong and rugged, would clench his hands on the table, holding his family's fragile threads with sheer will. It was in this silence, filled with both love and absence, that Kevin first understood the pain that chooses quiet over tears. By the time Kevin reached adolescence, instability became a constant companion. The Costner family moved steadily, Compton, Ventura, Visalia, Orange County, chasing jobs and stability, but never quite catching either. Each relocation meant new schools, new faces, and painful new goodbyes. "We were always packing, always starting over," Kevin recalled. This nomadic childhood taught him to keep his world locked inside, with the sound of packing tape tearing across boxes as the soundtrack of his youth. Never the loudest or the star athlete, Kevin was the quiet boy at the back of classrooms, more comfortable with poetry than participation. His escape was found in church choirs and late nights, writing about skies and second chances, dreaming of open spaces that didn't shift beneath his feet. His parents' contrasting strengths, his father's discipline, and his mother's enduring faith, became the compass and foundation for a boy growing into himself. Throughout these years, Kevin's weight and presence grew alongside his inner light. By the time he graduated from high school, he stood at a towering 6 feet 1 inch. But it was his emotional and creative growth that proved most remarkable. What had started as a fragile, doubtful child turned into someone prepared to build more than just a life as transient as a moving truck's shadow. His acceptance of uncertainty became a quiet strength, shaping the man who would one day tell stories that moved the world. That strength was forged not in bursts of glory, but in countless moments of endurance, waiting and watching while the world remained indifferent. The road ahead would demand more than quiet strength. It would test a resilience tempered by loss and fueled by relentless resolve. The long road to stardom. Kevin Costner's journey to Hollywood acclaim was far from glamorous. It was marked by struggle, rejection, and heartbreaking invisibility. After graduating in 1978 with a marketing and finance degree, he took a conventional path, securing a steady job that paid the bills but starved his soul. Each day behind office walls felt like a slow death, the silence inside growing louder than the hum around him. His heart belonged not to numbers, but to stories unseen by most, worlds waiting to be told. Fate shifted during an ordinary flight home from his honeymoon when he found himself seated next to Richard Burton, a legendary actor whose encouragement sparked a long-dormant dream. Burton's simple words, "You have green eyes, I have green eyes. I think you'll be fine," echoed deep within Kevin's spirit, igniting a resolve that would change everything. Within weeks, Kevin quit his job, packed a single suitcase, and set out for Los Angeles, armed with nothing but hope and determination. But Hollywood was indifferent. Far from overnight success, Kevin faced cold rejections, low-paying odd jobs, and the grinding uncertainty of chasing a dream that seemed just beyond reach. He scrubbed boats, drove delivery trucks, and even gave tours of celebrity homes to survive. Nights were often cold and lonely, curled up fully clothed, whispering, "Just one more day. Just keep going." His hands cracked from labor, his hope flickered, but never extinguished. Audition rooms were cruel, casting agents barely looked his way, and many promises ended with a curt, "Leave your photo." Shoes wore thin, hunger clung like a constant companion, and the city of dreams offered no guarantees. Yet Kevin refused defeat, letting his resolve harden in silence. When a classmate invited him to a low-budget beach movie set, he showed up barefoot and sun-bleached, ready to do whatever it took. This initial window of the camera's lens was more than hope. It was smuggled in darkness. Kevin, without any pay or promise or just a chance, threw himself into the job completely. The first step to his success was the movie Sizzle Beach, USA, a film he would later regret ever participating in. But it was an essential milestone on a bumpy road. Only the deeper humiliation of that experience was accompanied by the deeper pain of feeling unnoticed for 6 long years. Its stillness didn't silence him even after he got a part in The Big Chill. His scenes were not included in the final release, and his name and faith were thus erased from the audience's view. But rather than being invisible, he seemed to be everywhere at once. He committed even more, attending acting classes for the night, perfecting his skills, and learning to transform rejection into strength. "Dreams don't unlock doors," he eventually told. "They just give you the power to keep ringing the bell." His persistence paid off at last in 1985, when Lawrence Kasdan gave him a role in Silverado. The man who was forgotten in a way around Hollywood was set to be heard again, his magnetic and real aura casting the whole scene. Both viewers and reviewers were able to sense something extraordinary. Not merely acting, but truth preserved on the screen. What followed was not merely the sound of luck, but the sound of survival rewarded. Kevin had not just made it in Hollywood. He had made an explosion. The same person who had cleaned boats and driven trucks had now taken over the screens and the news, showing the world that the most silent ones are sometimes the most fiery ones. The triumph soon brought new challenges, where critical praise mingled with harsh scrutiny, and the true cost of stardom became clear. Rise and fall in Hollywood. The late 1980s and early 1990s marked Kevin Costner's ascent to the peak of American cinema, a period filled with memorable roles that became culturally iconic. Films like The Untouchables, Bull Durham, and Field of Dreams cemented his status as the embodiment of quiet courage and heartfelt storytelling. His portrayal of unwavering moral conviction resonated with audiences craving heroes who were human, flawed, yet deeply principled. He became not only a box office favorite, but a respected artist in Hollywood's proud pantheon. By 1990, amid his rise as an actor, Kevin took a bold and risky leap, mortgaging his own money to produce and direct Dances with Wolves. Hollywood labeled it madness, a 3-hour Western in the Lakota language, a potential career risk. Studios pressured him to cut its long silences, but he refused, insisting that truth lived in those pauses. The film's eventual release shattered expectations, earning over $400 million worldwide and winning 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Director. Despite such triumph, Kevin's journey was shadowed by inner doubt. Amid thunderous applause, he confessed quietly, "I didn't trust myself." That contradiction between external success and internal solitude revealed the complex man behind the legend fame was no guarantee of peace. It was often the doorway to new struggles. The early 1990s also brought commercial successes like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Political Storms with Oliver Stone's JFK. The latter tested his courage beyond performance as he willingly stepped into controversy, defending the chase for truth. His choices showed a commitment to principles that transcended career strategy. Then came The Bodyguard in 1992, a major commercial hit built on his faith in debutante Whitney Houston. Rejecting a $10 million salary for a profit share gamble, Kevin believed in her before others did. The film grossed over $400 million, its soundtrack selling millions, cementing a chapter of his life entwined with protection and trust. Yet the cost was high. Friends noted his sleepless days and exhausted nights, hinting at the loneliness fame sometimes fosters. But fame proved crueler still. The mid-1990s featured Waterworld, a film beset by disasters and budget overruns that nearly sank Kevin's career. Mocked mercilessly by the press and burdened by financial strain, it became a cautionary tale of Hollywood excess. His follow-up, The Postman, suffered a similar fate, sweeping multiple Razzie Awards. The same man who once held Oscars now faced crippling losses and public scorn. These years could have broken many, but Kevin did not retreat. Instead, he returned to smaller, quieter projects, westerns, and stories that reflected his resilience and refusal to give up. His career became a testament not just to fame's roar, but to the strength found when it fades. "I've never been afraid of beginning again," he said, and perhaps that is the truest measure of greatness. Some battles begin long before the cameras roll, and the real story often lies just beyond the spotlight. Family, love, and heartbreak. Behind Kevin Costner's commanding screen presence lies a story not of constant triumph, but of love tested and dreams undone. His first marriage to Cindy Silva, beginning in 1978 when they were young and full of hope, was built on borrowed rings, second-hand furniture, and shared faith. Cindy worked double shifts while Kevin chased auditions, both believing in a future they could barely afford. Their 3 children, Annie, Lily, and Joe, brought light to those early years. Kevin, often emotional, promised them a life worthy of their innocence. For a time, the family's laughter filled sunny California days, but fame, like a rising tide, began to erode the foundations of that modest happiness. As Kevin's career exploded, the distance between set and home widened. Cindy managed the household alone while he lived out of suitcases, crossing time zones and missing birthdays. The intimacy that once defined their bond faded into silence. Success had turned the man who played heroes into a stranger in his own home. Rumors were there, little talks about long nights and cheating, which gradually lost the trust until love turned to be just a habit. Success, Kevin once said, can be more lonely than failure. By the early 90s, their love story had come to a tragic end because of the heavy factors of distance, fame, and suspicion. Their divorce in 1994 was one of the biggest and most public breakups in Hollywood. Cindy's lawyers wanted $160 million at first, but ended up settling for around $80 million, equal to about $150 million today. The huge financial cost was a lot, but still way less than the emotional one. Cindy got the house where the family lived and the kids' custody. Kevin got his production company and the heavy silence of a deserted life as well. Later, he confessed the pain that had always been with him. You'll see those you love the most, your kids, only half the time. They didn't part on the last day before signing the papers with a fight, but rather with weariness. Once two dreamers, now very quiet, they had a last meal together, reached for the same glass, almost touching. This was the only memory left of their once loving gesture. After several years, Kevin went back to their former home in Ventura, where the walls were not as bright as before, and the laughter had long disappeared. The sound of tiny feet on the floor of the empty rooms reminded him of what success could never take away. He got the hardest truth in the stillness that love does not end in rage, but rather in silence. He was the one who had not won the battle of the richest man on earth, for he had the most precious currency of all, time, which he could never get back. The weight of fractured family life lingered, but so did the promise that love, though changed, endures quietly in the spaces between the chaos. Echoes of endurance. Life's losses did not end with divorce. Kevin Costner's path has been marked by farewells that carved deep into his heart, shaping the man behind the fame. The deaths of his parents, Bill and Sharon, arrived in close succession, leaving grief that words could never ease. His mother's final call, urging him to rest, became a haunting farewell. His father's passing soon after left him wrestling with distance, guilt, and the cruel timing of absence. Those heartbreaks softened him, deepening the emotional truth of his work. In the years that followed, his performances carried new tenderness, a reverence for quiet moments, and the fragile threads connecting love, loss, and time. Through his art, Kevin began to listen to silence differently, hearing within it the echoes of memory and gratitude. Among his most profound losses was the death of Whitney Houston, his bodyguard co-star and cherished friend. Their connection, forged in trust and creative respect, endured long after filming ended. When Whitney died in 2012, Kevin mourned not just a star, but a soul he had once promised to protect. His trembling eulogy at her funeral revealed a man mourning deeply in private, a friend honoring a life both brilliant and burdened. Even decades later, her voice remains a ghostly echo in his heart. A melody of what once was, the passage of time has also written its story across his body. Years of physical strain, burns on Waterworld, cracked ribs on Open Range, countless injuries from decades of relentless work have become his living archive. Yet, instead of bitterness, Kevin carries these marks as proof of a life fully lived. Each scar, each ache, a story told in motion. Now, at 70, his days begin before dawn on his Aspen ranch. The pace has slowed, but purpose remains. He feeds his horses, greets the cold, and keeps moving, guided by the same quiet determination that has defined his career. On the set of Horizon, he endures long hours under open skies, driven not by fame, but by faith in the work itself. For those who watch him, Kevin Costner is more than an actor. He is a symbol of endurance. A man whose light, though tempered by loss and age, continues to burn steady. His greatness lies not in applause, but in the courage to keep walking, long after the spotlight fades. This endurance, forged through loss and triumph, pain and love, remains the truest measure of the man many know only as a Hollywood icon. A quiet strength at 70. At 70, Kevin Costner lives with a quiet resilience shaped by loss, time, and devotion to his craft. Each dawn, he walks the frost-covered grounds of his Aspen ranch, his body aching yet unyielding. Feeding his horses in the cold has become both ritual and reflection, a testament to endurance. The years have left their marks. Burns from Waterworld, a cracked rib from Open Range, and countless strains from a career built on authenticity. Yet Kevin's drive endures, his pain now a companion rather than an enemy, a reminder that he is still alive, creating, and moving forward with grace. His acceptance, in turn, has gone deeper into performance. He puts the burden of his experience to give the character the appearance of being real and the truth of being real. In Yellowstone, as John Dutton, he represents the very meaning of endurance. A man clinging to his heritage while unrelenting, change tries to overthrow it. Besides, the show's phenomenal success has not only brought back Kevin's visibility, but also reasserted his position as a narrator who feels the price of power and the softness that is underneath it. Off-screen, Costner's values are still family and meaning. He is alternating between the tranquility of his Aspen ranch and his Tuscan-style Santa Barbara estate, places where his 7 children's laughter, reflections, and moments together are. Each child is a fragment of his story, a living embodiment of the idea that legacy is not measured by fame, but by love that is passed on. The film project Horizon, a story of the American West on a grand scale that he has funded entirely himself over a long period of time, proves his creative persistence. It is more of a vow to himself than a glory-seeking pursuit, to continue creating, to continue trusting, regardless of the appalling expenses or the long time needed. Kevin's liberality is silent, but mighty, beyond the borders of Hollywood. He is doing it through charity, sponsoring research for Parkinson's, children's hospitals, and women's shelters. He turns his success into service, which is the reflection of his values in upbringing. Hard work is an honor, and kindness is the inheritance. When night falls, Kevin Costner remains a figure beyond the film world. He is a man who knows that the real power is not the one who shouts, but the one who quietly, faithfully, and gracefully endures. Kevin Costner's journey stands as a powerful story of perseverance, a life marked by love, loss, and relentless dedication. From modest beginnings to the dazzling lights of Hollywood and through deeply personal challenges, he reminds us that true strength is often quiet, steady, and deeply human. If his story moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales that honor the resilience of the human spirit. Thanks for watching, and be sure to watch the next video appearing on your screen.